We're doing it today. How are you feeling today? How are you? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you glad? Are you mad? Are you thinking of your dad? And are you looking at the picture of Josh Gad? That is a reference to a Friends song about Josh Gad. Check out John Daly's diss track on Lil Xan. Yes. Good day to you, ladies and gents. It's me, Nick. It's the mid-afternoon here in Canada. I'm on a high. I hope it's not, hysteria or sort of a hyperness, although I have had some green tea and some coffee, and I am staying hydrated, I'm happy to announce. And I'm also wearing my own band's shirt because I'm in my house and there are no rules in your own house unless it's also your mother's house and her rules supersede yours. But what? I am not living with my mother. That would be crazy. I'm an adult. Adults don't live with their parents unless they're taking care of them. And why, just now my mother was doing yoga. Not that I saw. I just could feel it. I could sense it. ADHD, let's talk about it. I've got it. It's a gift. But I will tell you one of the downsides, because one of my areas of expertise is talking about the negative. And one of the problems with it is that you make a lot of mistakes. I don't really know how else to put it. Your eye for details is often not that great. Mine certainly isn't, and I make terrible errors almost daily, and great decisions almost daily. Now, you're probably listening and saying, well, I don't have ADHD, and I also have this ratio of errors to good decisions, and maybe that's the case, but trust me, you're probably not taking them as hard. You're probably moving past them pretty quickly. For a great thing, I roll around like a happy cat for 2 hours after it. If it's a bad thing, I roll around like a man covered in ants. Red ants. For the rest of my life. But this makes relationships a little challenging because people are maddened by you. And I don't mean John Maddened, aka impressed by your football expertise and willing to coach your team. I mean that they're just confused by your inconsistency and your behavior, and often frustrated, sometimes furious. I brought this up on a prior podcast, which I should start this right. Welcome to Nick Flanagan Weekly, everybody. WEAKLY. Nick Flancast. Something. We at Twitter. At the Flans on Twitter, that's for sure. And I'm doing this 4 days a week for now. This is my little solo podcast where maybe I'll change up the format in a bit, but right now it's been really fun recording these, doing these for you. I hope you're enjoying it. If you have comments or questions or something you'd like me to read on air or answer on air, right? WEAKLY cast at gmail.com, weeklycast at gmail.com. Please let me know what you think. Here's that ADD interrupting one thing in the middle with another thing, but that's important. What I just told you is important. I guess what I'm wondering is, what I was talking about a few episodes ago, maintaining your personal responsibility while trying to get people to sympathize with this constant element of your personality. I think that life needs a lot of forgiveness just for all of us to enjoy ourselves. That sounds like a commercial. Good God. Life needs forgiveness to really function well, and I think that that's probably one of the potential downsides of a certain streak of atheism, is not really focusing on the core positive things that religions tend to enforce, and then having this weird sort of, survival of the fittest mentality. We only live on this earth. The best person wins because they evolve. That would be a streak of atheism, I would imagine, where it's kind of like life is just evolution. And the weak may fall in the ground, becoming ash and bone, and the great craft family after family of people with stronger and stronger muscles. But I am intent on being the weak person who somehow still creates humans for the future, in spite of not being genetically predisposed to evolving. Does that make any sense? What I'm saying is, if I were a caveman, I'd be dead by now. And I would be out of the gene pool. But in this life, I want to remain in the gene pool. Although I might be sterile, who can say? Can anyone, if you don't think I'm sterile, please write weeklypodcast@gmail.com. Sterile? I always forget how to pronounce that word. Anyway. So personal responsibility versus forgiveness. This is something I have nothing new to add about it. It's just something that really kind of haunts me day to day. Not in a negative way exactly, but just in a way where I say, how do I explain to people, that I am so prone to mistakes that could even go as far as hurting their feelings or seeming insensitive, and at the same time maintaining responsibility for those, and not having a life where I'm saying sorry all the time. I'm happy to say sorry all the time, but that's part of the problem. Saying sorry all the time could potentially reduce the meaning of the word sorry. I mean, that's Canadians in a nutshell. We say sorry and it means F you. We say sorry and it means I'm sad, help me. We say sorry and it means pass the butter. Pass the vegan butter. Shout out to Chris Callahan. My friend Chris Callahan created a line of vegan butter last I checked. Actually, no, it was vegan bacon grease, but look, Google Chris Callahan vegan bacon grease and buy his product. What else is new? Marvel movies. I watched Infinity War a while ago. Don't think I'm a Johnny come lately. Maybe I'm a Johnny talk lately about a subject, but I'm not a Johnny calm lately. And I think it's back in the news because of the Guardians director and what happened with him. Also, when I hear about the Russo brothers, I just picture like the Blossoms. Was was that their last name, Russo? I feel like it was. They somehow weren't Jewish. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Was that their last name on Blossom? Russo? In my opinionation, it was. So, Marvel's Infinity War film is a real genius piece of work, linking together loosely plots of like all of these different franchises and containing all of these actors. I found it very enjoyable. I am a comic book fan. If you're not, you won't like it, but I did find it very enjoyable. It was like a really good cartoon, or a really good comic book, which it's basically based on. But it's quite ingenious because they also make you backtrack and watch the movies you always skipped. Or at least I always skipped. I wasn't rushing to see Guardians of the Galaxy. I still haven't seen Thor, but I'm going to at least watch Ragnarok. I'm going to watch that because it seems like it has some sort of info. I watched Doctor Strange. That was okay. Wasn't that great. And I watched Ant-Man. Really liked Ant-Man. Not gonna see the new Ant-Man. Not for a while, at least. And I did finally watch Guardians of the Galaxy, and those were both pretty cool. Definitely, I think I really like Bradley Cooper as just a voice. Do you like me as just a voice? I had a voice audition today. My voice got complimented. It made me feel quite good. I think that's why I'm speaking with maybe a bit more verve and pizzazz today, this afternoon, this morning, yesterday, whatever point in time it is. James Gunn fired from the Disney franchise Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, barely care. Why do I barely care? I don't know. Part of me thinks that even though I'm in entertainment and I definitely should care, the deluge of information primarily on Twitter about this kind of stuff is just tiring. In case you didn't know, the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies is a man named James Gunn, who basically, his style with those films is to use a mixtape, almost like an Edgar Wright movie or Tarantino, where it's sort of these songs are anchors, and the characters talk like, real sarcastic 90s, 2000s people, and it's got a comic book sense of humor. But, 90s comic book. And then lots of sci-fi elements, obviously. Really great actors in all the movies. They're enjoyable. I mean, they are definitely enjoyable. And James Gunn is the director, and I suppose the inventor of that particular style, those movies' particular style. I'm explaining incredibly slowly for anyone who already knows the story, but basically, the long story short is Disney fired him from directing further episodes of the further sequels because he had tweets from about 6-7 years ago that were rampant in jokes about, pedophilia, babies, children, edgy shit, edgy stuff, education. And they fired him. Does this mean Vin Diesel's going to be fired for his dancing videos someday when dancing becomes banned, when life becomes footloose? I hope so. But, I mean, I definitely think that we have treated life and the public life in a way that is too gross. I'm trying to watch I'm Dying up here with my mom. We've been watching it. We're in season 2 now. Enjoyable show. Don't at me. I think it's enjoyable. I don't care. I do comedy. I don't care that it's a strange parody of the concept of doing comedy. Everyone having full conversations, apologizing to people, then doing their sets. But it's like watching Beverly Hills 90210. It's just like an ensemble soapy thing, but it has so much sex, and mostly the sex is the thing. There's so much sex, and it's just like, do we really need to see this? I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's like, even The Sopranos, they made it be at a strip club. I mean, there was a reason for it. These were the crassest people in the world. Comedians, you don't have to show them having sex. In fact, everyone is better off if you never see a comedian having sex. And that includes in real life, if you're considering having sex with a comedian. Getting back to this. So, James Gunn's jokes from 6-7 years ago are just part of this, brutally... Hollywood and LA and entertainers have always been foul-mouthed, gross people. I am for sure an example of that. And, you know, these tweets are just like part of that. When people didn't care and Twitter seemed like it was an in-joke between people who got it. No way will creeps and NIMBY people ever use this hip new format Twitter. Well, now they do. And they don't like your old tweets, James. And you know what? I don't either. They're not that funny. But that being said, you don't fire them for it, really. I mean, who cares? I mean, in that case, Roman Polanski, insert thing, you know. They would have fired him. The two Jakes would have never been made if Roman Polanski, if moral turpitude was an issue. But I guess he's been removed from the Academy of blah blah blah. So they're all cleaning up their act. Meanwhile, everyone is just doing exactly what they want, and that will never stop in America. That is what America is based on. Doing what you want, convincing yourself it is not affecting others. Or, well, really what you're thinking is, my happiness more important, and the happiness of those I love, more important than the happiness of others. What I'm trying to say is being disgusting publicly and expressing yourself is more important than all other things. And look, if you go back on my work, all I've done is disgusting stuff. Honestly. But I had enough shows where it was inappropriate that I learned to, like, flip the switch. And now my stuff is gross, but it's not, you know, those kinds of tweets. Anyway, I don't really know what my point is because I don't really side with the idea that a comedian or a person should be held to task for how they used to be. I think the time for punishment was then, not now. So I do agree with it, but Leslie Jones was just on The View and she brought this up. She said, she said, I've been doing comedy since 1987. I was like, oh, there's hope for me. I didn't hear about Leslie Jones until not that long ago. And she said, if I were getting in trouble, you know, I was bad, I didn't know anything. It's like, I don't know anything. I'm still learning everything. So yes, and I mean, someone I know once said to me, if I listen to something I recorded last week and I'm saying something that I still agree with, that makes me feel really good. And I totally got what he was saying, and I was a bit envious because, like, I'm going to listen to this after I record it and go, well, I don't really agree with what this man is saying. Fun times, right? We're having a good time. You have to agree with me. So yeah, we're in this pissing contest. That's what happened. The left and the right are now competing with each other on who can get the other in more trouble, who can accuse the other side of being more heartless. And it's not a contest the left can win. Because they're sloppier. So I say you just don't care. Be you. If you get consequences, go indie, baby. Go DIY. Let's get James Gunn crowdfunding his next dream project. I think that's something we also need to realize about trolls, as they're called. Haters, as some call them. Because these are people... Not quite enough. These are people bathed in internet, first of all, most of them. Secondly, I would say that 60 to 70% of them are under 20. And in 10 years will be like as regretful as I am for my internet life until 2000 and way after 2005, I would say, even later than that. So we have to give them a little bit of a buffer to understand they are going to deeply regret who they are in several years. Troll today, friend in a decade. That's what I have to say. That's all I have to say. I'm done, yo. Thank you for listening to this week's episode, this day's episode. I'm trying to upload 4 a week. See how much I can keep that going. But this is Nick Flanagan Weekly. If you have anything to say, Weekly Podcast, WEAKLY Podcast, what is the address? Weekly Podcast at gmail.com. And you can find me on Twitter at what is it? Okay, you gotta give me a second here. Thank you for giving me a second. If you have a question or comment, please write me at WEAKLYPODCACST at gmail.com. That's weeklypodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, I haven't this account on Twitter. Okay, just follow at the Flans. Please like this on podcast.com, iTunes, Stitcher. These are places you can find the podcast. SoundCloud. Follow me on all of those. Like, review it, comment. That all helps. I'm trying to get this going. Tell your friends. Subscribe. Let me know what you want to hear from me, because I am interested in giving you what you want with a side dash of what I want. Side dish of what I want. But a side dash as well. Dish or dash. Dish or dash. You can do a dish. You can do a dash. You can do a dish. You can do a dash. Okay. Nick at NICKFLANWEAKLY. Nick Flan Weekly. Okay? So that's me on Twitter. That's the podcast on Twitter, but at the Flans is better. And weeklypodcast@gmail.com for all of your needs. This is the part where I talk about stuff I like. Check out the band Dirty Ghost, my great friend Allison. They have their most recent record, Metal Moon. It's old now, but it's killer. They're killer. Dirty Ghosts. I think they're on Bandcamp. Check out the artist Moon King. He's really great. And support your local weird video store. In Toronto, it's Queen Video. In LA, it's Vidiots. What is it in your town? Yeah, nickflanagan.bandcamp.com. Right now I don't have the Patreon set up, so you could buy my album Wiped Privilege. It's pay what you can. That will directly support me, and I can continue doing this. But I will make a Patreon. I'd love to know what kind of incentives you'd like to see. I've never done this before. Thank you very much. All right, love you guys. Do you love me? Please say you love me. Thanks for listening.